Title: Don't feed the graveyard birds after midnight. There's a small, moss-covered cemetery on the edge of my town. People don't talk about it much. It's not listed on any map, and no one can agree on when it was built. You have to walk down an overgrown path, barely visible behind the old train station, and once you step onto the cracked stone threshold, everything goes strangely quiet. Even the wind stops. My grandfather used to call it the nesting grounds, but he never explained why. He just warned me, always with a serious tone I had never heard in his voice otherwise, don't feed the birds there after midnight. Ever. When I was a kid, I thought it was just one of his spooky old stories, something to keep children out of dangerous places. But last week, after his funeral, I found a small leather-bound journal in his attic. In it, he'd written dates, names, and strange entries that chilled me. Pages upon pages of people who vanished after visiting the graveyard. What was stranger was how many of the entries ended the same way: he laughed. He fed them. He's gone. I couldn't let it go. Grief makes people reckless, I guess. I took the journal, a flashlight, and a bag of stale bread, and on the night of the full moon, I followed the path he described. The entrance was just like he said, old stone, covered in ivy, and beyond it, gravestones leaning at impossible angles, like they'd been twisted by time and sorrow. But the most disturbing thing wasn't the graves, it was the birds. Hundreds of them. Perched silently on headstones, statues, tree branches. Watching. Waiting. I checked my phone. 11:47 p.m. I figured I had time. I walked among them, the light from my torch casting long shadows. The birds didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even blink. They were pale, too pale. Not white, not gray, like their feathers had been bleached by something unnatural. And their eyes were deep, hollow black, as if they had no end. I tried not to look into them too long. 11:59 p.m. My hand hovered over the bag of bread. I know it sounds stupid. I knew the rule. But I was angry. Angry at death, angry at silence, angry at the world for taking my grandfather away. So I took a piece of bread and tossed it toward a cluster of birds. Midnight. The sound they made wasn't a caw or a screech, it was a whisper. Hundreds of voices, echoing inside my head, saying the same thing, thank you. And then they moved. Not like normal birds. They didn't flap or hop. They slid. Smooth and jerky, like frames missing in a film reel. They surrounded me, necks twitching, beaks opening to reveal rows of teeth. One of them tilted its head and whispered, now you feed us. I ran. But no matter which way I turned, the path was gone. The trees had shifted. The headstones had moved. I was inside something else now, something alive. The birds followed, walking upright now, their wings dragging behind them like cloaks. They weren't birds anymore. They never were. That's when I saw him. My grandfather, standing at a grave I hadn't noticed before. His eyes were hollow, his mouth a frozen grimace. The plaque at his feet read, he broke the rule. I don't remember how I escaped. Maybe they let me go. Maybe I was supposed to come back and warn you. Rules to survive. 1. Do not enter the graveyard after 11:30 p.m. 2. If you hear whispering before midnight, leave immediately. 3. Never bring food. Never offer it. 4. If you see the birds watching you, do not make eye contact. 5. No matter what you hear, do not feed them after midnight. Because once you feed them, they remember your taste. And they always come back hungry. The following nights passed with a thick tension in the air, like static just before a lightning strike. I barely slept. Every branch brushing against the window sounded like wings. Every shadow cast by the moon looked like something perching, watching, waiting. I kept the bedroom lights on, even during power outages. I had candles ready. I knew I wasn't imagining the feathers. They'd show up every morning outside my front door, damp and black, always in sets of 2. Sometimes with bits of dry earth clinging to them, as if they'd been dragged from beneath the ground. One night, I woke up to a fluttering sound inside the house. It wasn't loud, soft, deliberate. I held my breath, heart slamming in my chest. The sound came from the hallway, like something hopping lightly, claws scraping the wooden floorboards. I reached for the flashlight on my nightstand, clicked it on, and tiptoed toward the door. The hallway stretched out in eerie stillness. Nothing. But then I looked down. Feathers. A small, neat line of them leading into the living room. I followed them like a fool. When I turned the corner, I saw them. 6 of them. Not birds anymore, at least, not fully. Their wings were still there, but mangled and wrong. Their heads twisted at sharp angles, beaks cracked and filled with jagged teeth that shouldn't belong to anything that flies. Their bodies looked bloated like something waterlogged and rotting. But their eyes, that was the worst part, each one shimmered with a glint of human recognition. One of them even had eyes that looked exactly like my grandfather's. They didn't move right away. They were perched on my furniture like grotesque statues. I backed up slowly, flashlight trembling in my hands. Then I made the mistake, I tripped. The sound startled one of them, and with a noise like a choking crow, it launched itself at me. I barely managed to scramble back into my room and slam the door. Their claws raked against the wood for an hour before they finally left. When I opened the door the next morning, the hallway was clean. No feathers. No scratches. No blood. Like nothing had happened. I tried telling the sheriff, but he just nodded in that slow, tired way he always did when locals came in with stories. "Birds'll do what they do," he muttered, and offered me a cup of coffee. When I left his office, I noticed something strange in the evidence locker window. A cage. Feathers. And a feeding dish. Filled with bones. I don't leave the house anymore at night. But it doesn't matter. They know me now. The sky darkens and I hear them on the roof, claws scratching tiles, beaks tapping at the windows. They peck gently first. If I ignore them, it gets worse. The power goes out. The shadows grow long. They find ways inside, cracks in the wall, vents, dreams. Last night, I woke up gagging. Something was in my mouth. I coughed hard, and a black feather fell out, slick and warm. They're already feeding on me from the inside. And I made one fatal mistake, I fed them. Just once. Just one bite after midnight. Now I'm their nest. And soon, something else will hatch. The air around the graveyard felt heavier in the following days. Each night, after the clock ticked past 12, the birds would appear in greater numbers, more frantic in their feeding, their feathers blacker than pitch, and their eyes too human in the way they stared. I stopped visiting after midnight. I stopped feeding them. But I had already broken the rule. The consequences had already begun. I started waking up with soil under my fingernails. At first, I thought I was sleepwalking, maybe reliving the night I fed them. But then I noticed the feathers. Long, oily black ones left on my pillow, tangled in my hair, stuck in the drain of my shower. I scrubbed myself raw, but the stench lingered, like rotting leaves and stagnant water. The sound of wings fluttering in the distance never stopped, even during the day. It was as if the graveyard had followed me home. The town changed too. Quietly. Subtly. People were more withdrawn. The florist near the cemetery stopped opening shop. The school closed for fumigation, but I heard the real reason: something was nesting in the rafters. Something with claws. No one saw birds anymore during the day. Only at night. And not just in the cemetery. They began perching on rooftops, on power lines, on swings in the abandoned park. Watching. Waiting. And beneath them, always, small piles of bones. Then came the night when I heard the chirping. Not outside, but under the floorboards. It wasn't the high-pitched trill of fledglings. It was deeper. Wrong. Like a croaking whisper. I crouched beside the vent in my bedroom and listened. The noise was rhythmic, almost like a chant. Something scratching wood. I pried open the floor panel and aimed my phone flashlight into the dark. Movement. Quick. Shuffling feathers and something pale beneath them, small beaks, fused with fleshy human-like faces. Not chicks. Not birds. Things. Dozens of them. And they looked hungry. I sealed the vent with nails and duct tape. Poured bleach over the boards. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The chirping turned to muffled laughter. The next day, my neighbor's dog was gone. Just blood and feathers on the porch. And the day after that, the pastor at the church was found in the bell tower, eyes pecked out, smile carved too wide. I tried to leave town. Packed my things and drove until the signal on my phone returned. But no matter how far I went, the birds came too. Perched on the rearview mirror. Appeared on roadside signs. One followed me into a gas station bathroom. I tried to swat it. It split open mid-air, like a paper-thin shell. And something crawled out, something wet and too fast and laughing. Now, I live in my car. I sleep with the windows shut, but I can still hear the chirping every night. It's inside me now. In my dreams, I hatch from the soil, not as myself but as one of them. Feathered. Hungry. Eyes that see too much. If you see the graveyard birds, don't talk to them. Don't feed them. Especially not after midnight. Because what I didn't realize is that they don't come from nests. They come from graves. And feeding them is not generosity. It's permission. And now, they've multiplied. And I am no longer sure if I'm watching them. Or if I've already become one of them.